This week on the Virtual Skeptics. Bob is mauled by a chicken. That's what it says. Eve's enigmatic smile is just indigestion. And Tim is suddenly a sports fan for some reason. I'm your host, Brian Gregory. I have nothing but a big sigh for you. Hi, this is the show. Wait,
Hi.
I'm using the fade out. This is the show thing that we're doing. It starts now. That's right. That's what it says on Twitter. Starts now. That's right. So, let me do this while people are just taking their time to show up on the live show.
Oh,
I'll introduce the crew.
Okay. Hi.
What? Hi. This is Bob. Hi, Bob. How are you doing?
Hi, Bob.
I shake you warmly by the hand. Bob does this stuff. He is CSI's conspiracy guy, web columnist, blogger for Skeptical Humanities, and a contributor to Skepticality. Is there anything else you do, Bob?
No, that's pretty much it. I'm also a teacher.
Yeah? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Limbo champion.
He distorts young minds.
Yep. This week I have students putting together scams. One of them, they invented alien abduction pajamas that will keep you from being abducted.
Nice!
I guarantee you, if you wear them, you will not be abducted by aliens.
But are they stylish? Do they have paisley?
Well, the thing is, they have to have their footy pajamas. Yes, because sometimes you get things implanted in your foot and in your hand, so they need to cut as much coverage as possible.
Do you end up looking like a Teletubby?
More or less, yes. They have. Okay. Oh, that would have been hilarious. Sorry.
Next up, Eve Siebert, editor and blogger at Skeptical Humanities. That's the same blog that Bob is on, and contributor to Skepticality, which is a good podcast, and a blog called Insight at skeptic.com. What else do you do, Eve? Besides all this awesome.
Well, just general awesomeness, really.
Woo!
Woohoo! I'm sure it is. That sounded not as encouraging as I meant to do. Next up, Tim Farley.
Dial down the snark a little bit there, Brian.
I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry, Eve. Tim is a blogger. He's got a Skepticals blog.
A legend blogger.
Yeah, here's a blogger. He also blogs on Insight at skeptic.com, which is the same thing that Eve blogs as well. And he contributes to Skepticality, that podcast we talked about, and created What's the Harm, which is a really cool website, and is a former fellow for the JREF. And does tons of other stuff, too.
Sometimes. Get people banned off Wikipedia.
Yeah. He does that, too.
Occasionally.
Yep. So everyone who is listening and watching, say hello. And then we'll say hello back.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hi, Dr. Nick.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody. So that's what I call that's the mellow intro that I've just done. The mellow intro. And no, I am not stoned. Just saying.
Kind of one of those days.
Yeah, it's one of those.
You're just sort of getting overtaken by the beard at this point.
Is that what it is? Yeah. It does kind of change your attitude a little.
When you start going full Sanders. He's going to show up with like a little boast of those little string ties and, bucket of chicken.
On the other hand, if you didn't have the beard, you'd be in villain.
Yes,
the villain arena, the mustache-swirling villain area.
I was going to tie you to the train tracks. Going full Sanders is my. Going full Sanders is my. I don't know.
some sort of band.
Cover band.
Not a cover band. It can't be a cover band. It's an expression. It's got to be a euphemism for something, which I'm not going to talk about.
Your full Monty knockoff.
Yeah, my Magic Mike style movie. I don't know, going full Sanders. It's a rom-com. Let's just keep moving along. Why don't we move along right now? Okay, we're gonna move along. A couple things we do at the beginning of the show. First up, we've got our trivia question, which Tim is going to read because he's the one that does this stuff. And thank you, Tim, for all the work you put into doing the trivia question.
Usually moments before the show starts.
Yes. I don't think we would have this without you. So.
I forgot. Yes, today I would like to call attention to a very talented but somewhat forgotten person by the name of Rose Mackenberg. She was an investigator, and she was known for being associated with what ultra-famous skeptic? If I told you what she investigated, that might give it away. So I won't. But Rose Mackenberg, who would we know her in association with?
She investigated the secret 7 herbs and spices that are in the chicken recipe.
She might have at some point.
Yeah?
She did a bunch of cool things.
Okay. So it's not Colonel Sanders. This is not a theme. No. We're doing this. Okay, good. The other thing we do every week is I've got 2 screens behind me. If you can figure out what they are, I will.
Dude, you don't want to know what I'll do.
Send you. Yeah, I will send you some beard clippings. I don't know.
Oh Christ! I thought you wanted people to participate.
Yes, but see, there'll be Bob's beard clippings. I'm just saying.
Try not to run off our remaining 3 viewers.
This is an odd show this week, isn't it?
It's going at about that pace, yeah.
Yeah. So why don't we just dive right in? Guys, think about the true question out there on the Twitters and on the places where you can contribute to the show. If you want to let us know how you feel and ask a question, whatever, tweet with hashtag Virtual Skeptics or comment on the YouTube, or you can use the Q&A app to ask a question, which I will stress, ask a question on the Q&A app on Google+. And Tim is first this week, and he's got some really interesting slides.
Yes. I have to give full credit, and I'll show you his tweet that clued me into this, to the food hunk who called my attention to this today. He is a fellow. Yeah, he's one of the anti-food babe bloggers. There's Food Hunk and the Chow Babe and the Psy Babe and the various hunks and babes and whatnot. Anyway, his name is Jeff Fountain, and he goes by Food Hunk and tries to counter. And one of the many topics that those types of bloggers hit on, because Food Babe tends to hit on it a lot, is GMOs. And whenever you're talking about GMOs, inevitably the word Monsanto comes into the conversation, just like Hitler in any sort of argument. Hitler gets mentioned eventually. If you're talking about GMOs, you got to mention Monsanto. And let me say right up,
change their name, it's really going to mess up internet conversations.
Yeah. Let me say right up front, I'm the first to admit Monsanto, like any giant company, has done some crappy things that are not to be admired. Every large U.S. company or other company has done stupid or some would say evil things, because they tend to do things that are very self-centered and profit-oriented and have side effects that they don't think about. That having been said, demonizing all of GMOs with Monsanto is kind of stupid. But I'm talking about a meta thing, kind of a Skeptools thing. There is this interesting news story, and if you search for the news story, you will only find it on the shittiest news sites. not any credible news site. It's not on CNN. It's not on BBC. But I do have a slide of one version of it from the Ecologist, I think, .com.
Is this one of those things they don't want you to know?
Yeah, this is one of those things they don't want you to know. Basically, the headline is Monsanto is going to be put on trial for crimes against humanity in The Hague by a tribunal. And that sounds like the World Court, and it sounds like the United Nations.
But it's...
Literally, it's a kangaroo court. Literally, a bunch of organic supporters.
Yeah.
Well, not literally, but in the classic definition of a kangaroo court, in that it's a court just set up to reach a predefined conclusion and not have any effect in the law. A bunch of organic folks decided they're going to go through the motions, and they claim that they mention the UN, they mention the Hague, I think they mention the World Court. They're going to have it in the Hague where the World Court is. And of course they did it in Paris in conjunction with the climate change conference that's going on to get attention to it. They're calling it the Monsanto Tribunal and blah, blah, blah. It's complete bullshit. It's just a made-up thing that they're going to do next October. And, of course, they're going to find Monsanto guilty of crimes against humanity or whatever the hell. But so they're trying to push this thing, and they've gotten it posted on various anti-GMO websites that kind of look like news websites. And I think they got that crappy Putin-run Russian news site RT to pick it up.
Yeah,
that's the closest to a real news site that's
and that's a conspiracy theory nutloaf. Just horrible news site.
Right.
To draw a comparison, every once in a while, I don't remember what the organization or the UFO guys will do.
MUFON.
It's not MUFON. But it's probably some of the same people that do the press conferences or something in the press club in DC.
Try to
associate it with
Disclosure Project.
Yeah.
They have congressional hearings.
Yeah, there was something like that here in Atlanta where the chemtrails guys did a thing, and they rented basically the event facility at the Atlanta History Center. So they could say that they presented their film at the Atlanta History Center. Well, it wasn't an official Atlanta history. I mean, you can literally have your wedding in the same building that they rented to show this film in. Yeah. But it puts this aura of, respectability on it. So anyway, of course, the various versions of this news story are getting tweeted all over the place. And Food Hunk was digging through the hashtag. It's always interesting to go back and look at a hashtag that obviously people are trying to make trend and back up and see where it started, who was tweeting it first, and what kinds of repeats are you seeing? What kinds of accounts are you seeing? Are they people that you know are followers of this, or are they like random people you've never seen tweeting on this topic before? And lo and behold, he found a bunch of tweets like this next slide that I have up. Which is a link to an Instagram, oddly enough, photo, with the photo copied into Twitter too, with a report and strangely a short link in the photo, which is not very practical. But anyway, it's official. Monsanto is going on trials, and identical tweets for this were going out. In a whole series with this exact same photo, and it's like, oh, that's interesting that there's identical tweets. Now, sometimes that'll be real grassroots, because sometimes people will tell their followers, hey, tweet something like this, and people will just copy and paste the tweet. But in this case, here's the interesting thing. Look at the avatar on this and the name of the account. It's a picture of a baseball field, and the account name is Tigers Blogger.
I was thinking it's the team.
It's not the team, but if you go to the next slide, it's the profile page for that account. It's an account that runs nothing but news about the Detroit Tigers. So the question is, Why are they tweeting about Monsanto and GMOs? Right? Well, and there were a whole series like this. Blue Jays, Tigers, San Antonio Spurs, all these sports blogger accounts were all of a sudden tweeting about GMOs. So it's like, okay, that's weird. And here's another clue. You notice this thing with the pictures of the babies that says, get your virtual twin. And if you dig around in the, they really don't hide it at all. This account is run by a marketing agency called Beehive. And they have hundreds of accounts like this on Twitter that do different news sorts of things. And it's kind of a standard technique that a lot of marketing companies use. They'll create accounts around a theme. They'll set up a robot to just tweet news stories based on that theme. A lot of them will scrape Reddit because that's a good way to get relevant, time-relevant links that fit some theme or something. They'll find one of the inoffensive Reddits, subreddits, that's about like news or something.
They're out there. They're hard to find.
Yeah, there's subreddit. I'm sure there's a subreddit of Columbus, Ohio news or some, stuff like that. And people will just scrape the feed from that Reddit and shoot it into a Twitter account and put some graphics on it and say, hey, it's Columbus, Ohio news. And you will get followers because people will join Twitter and they'll look around and say, hey, I live in Columbus, Ohio. And they'll find the account and they'll say, hey, these look like useful links. And they won't even know that they're scraped off Reddit. And in fact, why should they care? I mean, if the links were useful on Reddit, they're useful. They would be useful on Twitter. So you could argue they're doing a service. But what the sort of insidious thing that's going on with these accounts is these accounts will then also tweet ads that were paid. And that's the purpose of the account. They generate some content, usually cheaply scraped from somewhere, to get some followers, and then insert these ads. And they do this on a massive scale. And I've seen several different networks like this. In fact, there was one that Daniel Loxton ran into one time because it stole some of his artwork and used it as an avatar, and he had to yell at the guy and get him to stop. But I went and chased down, and if you go to my next slide, it's the original tweet from the Food Hunk that showed these things. And as you can see, there was a whole long series of these tweets. From Cowboys, Blue Jays, Titans, Braves, all the American teams, and a bunch of Canadian teams, because it happens that this Beehive company is based in Canada. And if you go to their site, beehive.ca, sure enough, it is a marketing company that does social media marketing, and they basically admit to what they're doing, that you sign up and they create. The Beehive thing is about bees, and they create a swarm effect, and essentially you sign up and pay them a certain amount of money, and they will amplify whatever you want them to amplify. And lo and behold, on the front page of their site, if you go to my next slide, Brian, right there on the bottom is at least one client, this one's called Foodie, that features organic food. And lo and behold, if you dig around on the site, it appears the owners of this agency have some interest in natural products and organic stuff, and they seem to be interested in the save the bees, like the whole colony collapse disorder thing, because they tweet about some things related to that, and they sort of adopt it as their theme. So it seems like they're maybe targeting people who are in the organic industry. Now, who knows who exactly paid for this particular campaign, but it's obvious that these were all being paid, and they were some of the early tweets in this particular series on this particular hashtag, and basically they're paying to get a hashtag, get a message out, and to get a hashtag to trend. And ironic as hell, because whenever you talk about GMOs and Monsanto, the shill gambit comes out immediately.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Immediately they will ask you if you're being paid by Monsanto, and how much are you being paid, and why are you doing that? Why would anyone blog about these things if they weren't being paid? Well, look at this. they're being paid, or at least they're paying someone else to tweet about their precious topics, and while they're accusing everyone else of being paid shills. So it was
that profound hypocrisy in the bullshit community. It never ceases to amaze me what people are willing to just assume I'm willing to do, because clearly they're willing to do it. You know, like
well, and it's the perfect accusation, because what do you say? How can I prove I have never taken money from Monsanto? I can't prove that. You can't prove a negative. He can't prove that I took money from Monsanto either. So, you know, unless I happen to work for a nonprofit that has transparently opened its books and my salary is known, you know, there's very little answer to that argument, so it just hangs out there. But, you know, the fact of the matter is, organic food is a big industry, and they're spending a lot of money on this anti-GMO stuff, and at the same time they're accusing big companies like Monsanto of doing terrible things. They're spending a ton of money to market their own message on it. And, you know, don't be fooled. This is two industries battling against each other. Now, admittedly, Monsanto and its friends are probably a bigger set of companies than Big Organic, but still there are millions and millions of dollars on the organic side of this argument, and they are being spent to market to you and to push messages to you, and they will pretend that they are, you know, oh, these are just grassroots folks who want to feed their kids clean food. Yeah, some of them are, and some of them are bullshit, you know, Detroit Tigers Twitter accounts that are being paid to push this thing and make this hashtag trend.
So unbelievable.
I would say it's like Boiron or other homeopathic companies or alternative medicine companies talking about big pharma, when oddly enough, big homeopathy is quite a big business.
Oh yeah, Boiron's a huge company, hundreds of millions of dollars a year in profits.
Also, I have a question. The Tiger Blogger Twitter account had like 300 and something followers.
That's way too high for the Tigers.
Over 9,000 likes for that tweet, which seems like quite a...
Well, no, that's 9,000 likes. 9,000 likes that he did. One of the things that these marketing companies will do is they will use these accounts for multiple things. So they will have these accounts follow other people in order to build up other people's follow accounts, and they will like and retweet other things that they're being paid to like and retweet. So it's often very illustrative. If you find an account on Twitter that kind of looks like it might be doing shady stuff, go look at who they're following and who's following them. And if you look at enough Twitter accounts, you know what a legitimate follower list kind of looks like. You'll see some celebrities, but you'll see sort of clusters of people that have similar interests and people who are obviously real people. In these fake accounts, you'll see them following a lot of weird, bogus accounts that only have 2 or 3 followers or 20 followers, and a lot of accounts that have the word marketing and SEO in their title, and they'll cluster with each other's too. I'll bet a lot of these accounts, I haven't chased them all down, but probably Tigers Blogger follows Braves Blogger, and Braves Blogger follows Spurs Blogger, and they'll have all their own accounts follow each other. Not a complete network, because that would stand out as being stupid, but they'll have some ties between the accounts just to kind of build up the follower accounts a little bit, because accounts don't look very legitimate unless they have at least a few followers.
Right.
So that's one way that you do it, is you have, a couple thousand accounts, and you have them follow each other in kind of random fashion, and then they each have little follower networks. And to Twitter, it looks like a bunch of friends. Twitter's not going to spend a million years looking at this, but if you spend some time looking at these, And sometimes if you dig a little bit, you can figure out exactly where they're scraping their news stories from. And if you do that, then you can figure out exactly who the advertisers are, because those are the other tweets.
Yeah. I guess that this is a problem that's just developing because we have so many like aggregators and I guess you'd call them content generation sites, but they only exist for the sole purpose of selling advertising. And there's so many of them, and they're so small that they will pretty much get anybody. I mean, anybody who wants to pay them for something, they will aggregate their links and throw ads up there for them.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to try to game the system as best they can. Like this is essentially just them gaming Twitter to get exposure and then sell that exposure because they've got some kind of clever way of gaming the system.
Yep.
It's not illegal. It's not. It's not. They're not breaking Twitter, but it's shady.
It's definitely very shady.
Rules. Yeah. Yeah. What can be done about this? I guess it's just part of the way things work.
Yeah, well, you just have to be, Twitter literate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Twitterate?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna go there because it's awful, Eve. But yeah.
Twitterate? Twittiot? Yeah.
You have to be a Twittiot.
Twittiot. Yeah, I don't see how that could. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any suggestions, Tim?
You just have to pay attention. And it's like anything else. When you see information from a source, consider the source. And if it's somebody that you don't have a track record with, if it's a Twitter account you've never seen before, or you look at it and you can't figure out if it's a real person, take it with a grain of salt.
You can see patterns in the lists of, or you can look at the one that's a tip-off for me a lot is when you glance at a new follower and it has, it follows 12,000 people and also has 12,000 followers.
Yeah.
And you're just like, okay, bye.
That's a dead giveaway is, if followers and follow, the two numbers are very close to each other, because what a lot of people who are trying to game the system will do is they'll do this follow back thing. One of the things that was never standard on Twitter, on Facebook, if you're friends with somebody, they're friends with you. But on Twitter, it's asymmetrical. And it kind of has to be for people who have, if Barack Obama has 10 million followers, he can't really follow 10 million people. And actually, Barack Obama used to follow back everybody, but they stopped at some point. Because how do you read a feed that has 10 million people in it? You can't. So you have to limit who you follow down to some sources.
Oh, you think they can't, but the NSA can.
Yeah.
He does have bots.
But yeah, any account that has more than maybe a couple thousand followers, but has the same number of followees as followers, they're just trying to inflate their count. And a lot of those followers are going to be junk followers that just follow you back, and they're not. And none of those people are paying attention to each other.
And
I'm looking at all those 9,000 likes on that Detroit account, and it appears that the robot simply likes anything that's hashtag Detroit, from what I can tell. So it just helps, and it's just one of many.
Murder rate years.
Because a lot of them are not oriented, but they all have Detroit in them. And that's just a way to help game, again, just trying to game the system, trying to make to Twitter's robots, make that account look like it's doing things that make sense. And if he's supposed to be about Detroit Tigers, liking something that's about Detroit would make sense, right? On some level.
Right.
Well, it's reassuring that Twitter is going to die soon anyway. So
it sure looks like it's circling the drain in many ways.
Well, I think it's because of all of these bots. And I don't know. The benefit I used to like about it was a big chat room. You could meet people and talk and have conversations. Now it's tons and tons of people just throwing content out there and not paying attention to who it is. Yeah. So. Yeah. But Thanks, Tim. That's fascinating. We need to pay attention to who we're following, I guess. I guess I'm next. I think I'm next.
Yep.
Should I do the music?
You should
I
do
only
them.
got one story this week. Let me do this. Yeah, the only story that I thought was worth mentioning this week was a scary one, but it's interesting and scary. I mean, we're all, trying to be diligent and pay attention to the development of technology that could eventually kill us.
I'm not.
With malice. Nobody asked you, Bob. Google had, and they've had it for a couple of years. They teamed up with NASA to go halvesies on a quantum computer they bought I think it's like 3 years ago now. Made by a company called D-Wave. Now, this slide is a picture of the actual computer part of it. Now, this thing is hanging on a pedestal inside of a big black box. When they run it, they have to isolate. I think they have to do some kind of thermal isolation as well as radiation isolation.
Oh yeah.
But it's a quantum computer. The idea is that they use special materials that can hold multiple states, as quantum states. And the idea is that they can use that to perform calculations faster than you could on a binary computer, an order of magnitude faster. Well, this week they published, and that's going to be a slide I'll talk about in a second. They published on their research blog that they have run some cool stuff on it and proved that they can actually do quantum calculations and actually do them an order of magnitude faster than they can do them in other methods. I'm simplifying all this down because I'm not expecting too many mathematicians to be listening right now, and I'm not a mathematician, so I have to kind of handwave some of this stuff too. This chart is relevant to a kind of calculation that they're trying to do on this computer. It's called annealing. And it is a method for solving or finding a solution set for a set of large or hard to solve equations with multiple solutions. The kind of thing where you'd normally have to do some kind of, well, essentially a search algorithm to find the solutions. If you look at this chart, the one axis is time, and it's actually an exponential time scale. So you look at it, it is in microseconds. So the bottom of the scale is 1,000 microseconds, and the top is 10 to the 14th microseconds, which is a really big number, but it's probably hours, I think. And then from left to right is the number of calculations it's doing, essentially. And they've compared a couple of traditional solution algorithms. The green line and the red line are other methods of solving the same kind of problem they do on regular computers that are just fast. And then the blue line at the bottom, which I'm not sure what the multiple lines are, which I didn't get into the math. But clearly, if you compare one to the other, you're talking about a serious boost in performance here. If you're interested in the details of the math, I will put the links, which I'm going to be delving through because, like I said, I'm not a mathematician, but I'm going to try this week and in the show notes. But the point is, and what some people are speculating is, since they now have proved they can actually do this on this machine, what are they going to do with it? And people are speculating about various kinds of computational intensive things that they can do. Like NASA wants to simulate rocket launches.
I'll tell you exactly what they're going to do. They're going to break all our cryptography completely.
That's one of the things that were suggested because essentially you've reduce the amount of time involved in solving the equations we use for encryption down to something that
folks at home aren't familiar a lot. The fundamental basis of most of the cryptography on the internet, the HTTPS stuff, is based on math problems that are really hard to solve. And if you want it not to be breakable, you make the math harder and harder to solve. But that's with our current computers. If we had a, pardon me for the pun, quantum leap to a quantum computer that could be billions of times faster, suddenly those math problems become solvable in an afternoon, and you can crack everybody's encryption.
Yeah. Now, there's some implications to solving other things that are hard to solve too. Like the idea is to use it for complicated search algorithms or pattern matching algorithms. The same kind of stuff they've done with large clusters of computers, like Siri, which does language recognition, and some of the IBM's got a picture recognition engine. These things would be easier to do with this level of computation. Like I said, NASA wants to simulate rocket launches. They want to be able to do the complete physics of some kind of model the physics of something that's really complicated to solve.
I've heard of God, what was it? Trying to model, I don't know, somehow I don't know, tap the nuclear weapon and see if it's intact. Like that type of enormous calculation. I don't know. I'm stupid.
I didn't see that one. The simulation aspect sounds really cool. The kind of stuff that we try to do, trying to test something that's going to be in space on the ground is always a hard problem because you can't turn off gravity. Being able to simulate that kind of stuff in some kind of fidelity sounds really cool to me. The other thing that's been speculated a lot about is AI. I mean, now that we have this ability to do, or we could have this ability to do really large-scale computation in a short period of time, that possibly we could crack the actual intelligence part of.
What is in this graph? What's QMC? What's SA?
QMC.
What is that?
They're acronyms. Okay, Quantum Monte Carlo is QMC, and this is not going to help you, is it? Simulated annealing is SA. These are different approaches to solving the same kind of.
Monte Carlo.
Yeah.
Yeah, Monte Carlo is a sort of a way to do simulations where you say, well, this could happen, this could happen, this could happen, and you kind of try different things. Yeah. And sort of look at the probabilities and say, all right, it sort of looks like the right answer's in here.
And is it saying that
it's complicated guessing, yeah.
When you get to a certain level of complexity, suddenly I have no idea.
Let the grown-ups talk.
Let's look at this again. The number of items. Yeah. Essentially, the very simple aspect of this is that from left to right is you're increasing complexity. The number of things you're trying to solve is going up on a scale. So you'd expect the time involved.
Are those variables across the bottom? Are those the number of variables, or what the hell?
It's problem size in bits.
You're just throwing pictures up. You don't know what they are.
I have to admit there is a lot about this math that I don't understand. I only understand the basics. But the simple problem is that you're trying to solve larger and larger problems, and when you solve larger and larger problems, you should expect the amount of work involved to go up as well. Yeah. And how fast it goes up based on how large the problem is your performance, the actual efficiency of whatever you're using to solve that problem. So the difference between the red line and the green line and the blue line is... Okay, the blue line's the bottom one.
I knew that.
The red one is the steep one. I know.
What about the yellow one?
The green one is relatively flat. Yeah, there's no yellow one. But the basic point is that you can do the same amount of work in a whole lot less processing time. And that's essentially all this graph is saying. And it's like a huge difference because it's an exponential scale. So the difference between two notches on the side there is an order of magnitude. So you step up, step up, step up, step up. Each one of those is actually much, much larger. So it's scary fast. That kind of thing. So, so at this point, I mean, essentially, they've just proven that they can do it. Well, what they're going to do with it, we don't really know, and how much time it's going to take for them to actually apply to some interesting problems, I don't really know. But
And when will it be incorporated into Xbox?
next year,
The
sometime.
important questions. Yeah.
I think the Xbox One just came out, so I think it's 2 years. 2 years, yeah, that's about the right time when the yeah. Do you remember when the PS4 or the PS3 came out and everyone was buying it because it was like supposedly so fast that you could use it for really complicated problems. And they were using it for a computing platform, and now it's like it's old and broken now.
Yeah, and those guys who use them for complicated programs buy them cheap, used, and put whole racks of them in a closet somewhere. Because even though it's slow, you can get them cheap and have a whole array of computers working on a problem together.
Yeah, but this is, I mean, it's like comparing a cluster of PS3s is like I don't know, like Commodore 64 compared to the bleeding edge supercomputer right now. So it is really scary fast, and what they're going to do with it is going to be very interesting, and I can't wait. But the reason I'm bringing it up is because it may become sentient tomorrow and want to kill us all. So there you go.
First, it's going to steal all our bank accounts by breaking the crypto.
See, this is what I don't understand about breaking cryptography. Don't you have to try each code individually, like each solution individually, challenge the computer over and over and over?
Well,
that's crap.
Go ahead. Well, it depends on. There are different problems in cryptography, but fundamentally, if you're trying to get somebody's key, get somebody's private key, the key is usually in public key cryptography is usually involved in factoring large prime numbers. And you can make, by using larger and larger prime numbers, you can make that arbitrarily hard to try all the different keys, try to find the 2 prime numbers that would give you that key. And if you had a quantum computer that could whip through that in 10 to the 12th times faster, then you could break anybody's key and see through their encryption and just watch their password go up to the bank.
Okay, that's.
I mean,
I guarantee you, quite near Bryan in McLean, Virginia, there are some NSA people working on this problem.
Yeah,
absolutely.
No doubt. Yep. I mean, the main problem, we're talking about hard encryption. It's not that you can't solve it. It's that it would take longer than you would be, than the next 3 generations of people would be alive.
Yeah.
Because of the time it takes to actually try all those combinations, or at least to try to reverse engineer it, is what it is. But yeah, if you could reduce that time significantly because of a massive amount of computing power, let's imagine getting one of these things and then running them in parallel. I mean,
wow.
I think he just pooped himself.
I may very well have. I'm just saying. Be glad this is a video, and we're not actually in the same room. Okay, then. Bob, I think you're next, and I hope it's not poop related.
It's not poop related. So 65 million years ago, at about tea time, a meteor struck the planet Earth, putting a pretty abrupt end to the reign of the dinosaurs, who'd been kind of on the decline for a while. Nonetheless, one type of dino survived. If you could bring up the first image, please. And that was the bird. And I put the ostrich's feet there so you could see what a hideous dino-like thing those appendages are. Okay, but birds. Also surviving was this a little shrew-like critter that was the ancestor of you, me, Kirk Cameron, mad scientists, and other mammals.
The crocodile.
Speaking of which, mad scientists on the East Coast, specifically at Yale and Harvard, in a breakthrough of truly evil research.
Hold on. They spliced crocodiles and ducks?
Hold on, we're getting there, dude.
Wait for it.
In truly evil research, managed to silence genetic mutations that turn lizard faces into beaks.
Ooh, this is going to be cool.
Ooh. Okay, so they announced this abomination in the eyes of God and man this week in the journal Evolution. The article was called, and it's pretty sexy, quote, "A molecular mechanism for the origin of a key evolutionary innovation, the bird beak and palate, revealed by an integrative approach to major transitions in vertebrate history. The first red flag is the word integrated, which is a well-known weasel word used by pseudoscientists to sneak balderdash into medicine, as in the phrase alternative and integrative balderdash." That was a joke. I have all day to wait for you to laugh. Okay, so, but no, it's actually... It's a respectable paper, and it's a really complicated paper too that seems to draw on lots of different areas of expertise. The development of the beak was a watershed in the differentiation of aves from other vertebrates. So to understand the development of this highly variable and useful adaptation, the mad scientists, and here I use their words, quote, "First we traced the transformation of the distinctive avian facial skeleton in the fossil record using geometric morphometrics. Then we attempted to determine developmental mechanisms behind the origin of the avian rostrum. We investigated potential developmental causes by examining candidate gene expression domains." Okay, so in other words, these embryo manipulating weirdos looked at the morphological changes in bird faces in the fossil record. They then took the genomes of birds and the genomes of not birds and isolated a cluster of genes. Like, I don't know, oversimplify. They looked for something that the birds had that the other critters didn't have, and they identified an area, a cluster of genes that mammals and reptiles didn't have, but the birds did. Then these demented geniuses took chicken eggs and they interfered with the proteins that were made in these, beak-forming regions of the genome in the very early stages of development. So any downstream change caused by these proteins wasn't going to happen. By blocking subsequent changes caused by the proteins, what they developed was a little ancestral biology consistent with the morphology shown in the evolutionary record. The chicken embryos developed with rounded facial features with teeth, like early avians instead of beaks. So that was kind of interesting. Now, I could be reading it wrong, but it seems, if you bring up the next image, that they've created a velocichicken.
It looks happy.
How you doing? Hey! But yeah, so this is just kind of a nifty...
Only slightly bloodthirsty looking.
Yeah.
But they didn't bring it to fruition.
Yeah, they didn't actually hatch that sucker. They didn't think it would have any problem surviving. But
the lab techs, on the other hand.
Yeah, they would not survive because velocichicken. Clever girl.
This is, I think this would definitely classify as a crocoduck.
I know. I originally was going to do this.
That's why they did?
Yeah, you know what, guys? That was going to be my joke. That's fine. What's the next slide?
You should warn us about your jokes so that I don't do them first.
You saw the slides!
I saw some of them.
Slide, please. They announced that they were going to be working... Yeah, your mother.
Look, it's crocodile.
It's crocodile.
Yeah. The crocoduck.
Yeah.
I didn't see this slide.
When I first saw this
I'm
story,
sorry, Bob.
my feeling was I was glad to see that the great traditions of science are still lingering on in the dungeon laboratory of a Bavarian castle.
It's true. I think it's really cool. Apparently, this type of research has been done before, where you silence gene expression and you see what I guess it's kind of like stripping away the mutations that have come since. or at least the stuff that's farther down in the embryo's development, or the organism's development, and you get to see what what was pasted over, So it was kind of cool. Yeah, and it looked like it involved a variety of different fields, everything from paleontology, biology, molecular biology, genetics. It was a complex study, and I think that's probably what they mean by integrative, but I'm not entirely sure. It looked very interdisciplinary to me.
Cool. Cool.
And
very cool.
They
and
taste great.
Yeah?
I don't know.
Do they taste like chicken?
Tastes like chicken.
I bet they do, because it's basically a chicken with like some sort of. Oh, the other thing that's important about this is that it identifies the development of beaks as a major transition, as opposed to a slight change from, say, it's just a weird nose. No, it's actually the whole maxillofacial area is being altered in a major way. So it's a major landmark in the facial development of this particular species. And when you consider that the beak is highly adapted for, and Darwin pointed this out, that the beak was highly adapted for different types of living, it becomes really important to realize that this is a ancient major innovation that defines the entire class. So neat stuff.
Yeah, neat. I'm sorry, Bob.
Okay.
It's a moment of silence for your joke.
For the joke that was
that
was killed like an embryonic chicken.
Yes, it was killed like an embryonic.
Okay.
Okay. So I've been looking forward to this next one. Eve is going to talk about the Mona Lisa, which I hope I didn't ruin it by saying that, but it's an interesting story. It's been all over the place, and I'm curious to what you have to say.
Well, tonight BBC Two aired a documentary called "The Secrets of the Mona Lisa," which I haven't seen because it aired in Britain.
Ouch.
Yeah. It considers the work of French scientist Pascal Cotte, who claims that the Mona Lisa is not the Mona Lisa. That is to say, he argues that there's another portrait of another woman hidden under the painting, and that hidden painting is the original portrait of Lisa Gherardini, the wife of silk merchant Francesco del Giocondo. So first of all, and really unrelated to the claims, I just want to mention the BBC's website features a short video about the controversy, and it includes a scene, if you bring up the first slide, of people at the Louvre carefully studying and appreciating the Mona Lisa.
No, wait a minute.
And I just want to take a few seconds for us to consider the possibility that humans are idiots.
Yeah, see how happy the one person who's not taking a selfie is? I just want to point that out.
Yeah. It's behind you.
Turn around, guys.
And it's really small. You might want to, whatever. Also, there are other paintings in that gallery. I'm just saying, including other Leonardos. Anyway, back to the story. Cotte uses a technology or a technique he developed called layer amplification method, or LAM. He has his own lab called Lumiere technology. The technique is described in the BBC article. Quote, "It works by projecting a series of intense lights onto the painting," Mr. Cotte said. "A camera then takes measurements of the light's reflections, and from those measurements, Mr. Cotte said he is able to reconstruct what has happened between the layers of the paint," unquote. And according to Cotte, LAM reveals more than infrared or multispectral scanning. He says, "We can now analyze exactly what is happening inside the layers of the paint, and we can peel like an onion all the layers of the painting. We can reconstruct all the chronology of the creation of the painting." So, what has he found by peeling this particular onion? Well,
cheers. Nothing but cheers.
He says he found the portrait of a different woman. The next slide shows Caught with an embiggened Mona Lisa and a reconstruction of what he claims is underneath. If you can bring up the next slide.
Yeah.
So same pose, same hands, different hair, a little bit more skin on the shoulder, different face, possibly. She's not, and she's not smiling significantly. But wait, there's more. According to the BBC, Cott also claims to have found 2 more images under the surface of the painting, a shadowy outline of a portrait with a larger head and nose, bigger hands but smaller lips. And he says his image with Leonardo's etchings of a pearl headdress. I haven't seen any pictures of those. A little over a year ago, Cott revealed the discoveries he made when he subjected Leonardo's Lady with an Ermine to the same process. If you could bring up the next slide.
Oh, yeah.
And there were significant differences here. First, she was Lady without an Ermine. Then, Lady with skinny rat.
That's over.
And then finally, Lady with an Ermine.
With a ferret.
However, when I looked for information about this, I found lots of reports from September 2014 when the discovery was first announced, and how important the discovery was supposed to be, but I haven't really seen much reaction since. Obviously, these are recreations. This isn't like, a photograph exactly of what you see under layers of paint. And I think that's kind of obvious in this painting because the face is the same, but if you look at her hands in the earlier 2 ones, they don't look good. Sort of like not really, and the skinny rat is just not as well done as the actual Ermine.
Well, they had to get the rat specialist in the workshop to do that one.
Yeah. So
and she has velociraptor claws.
So there's interpretation that goes along with the data. And actually, I don't know. Well, I don't know why it would have a dark, whatever the hell that horrible animal is, because there's symbolism that sort of makes sense with the Ermine that wouldn't make sense with whatever that thing is.
A poorly drawn ferret.
Yeah, well, they are related. I think they're all in the weasel family. Anyway, Cott also collaborated with art historian Martin Kemp in a study of La Bella Principessa. We have a slide of that as well. And that is a chalk and ink drawing on vellum. They identified it as the work of Leonardo, which is a big deal. It's like a new Leonardo. Not really new, obviously. It's kind of old. Although there are some doubt about how old, because some art historians support the identification, but many think it's fake.
Three all fakes.
Yeah. At any rate, as far as I can tell, the technique seems to be valid, but the question is Cott overreaching? One thing that's disconcerting to me is that this seems to be an excellent example of scholarship by media blitz. Cott announced his findings at a press conference in Shanghai yesterday. There's starting in Shanghai and going on tour. A book is available on Amazon for pre-order, and then the BBC documentary just aired in Britain. So it's sort of just in the last couple of days, this has been let loose with as much publicity as humanly possible.
It even showed up on. I listened to a podcast in the morning, a BBC World News podcast in the morning, and they mentioned it without recognizing that there was a BBC production and book and all sorts of other stuff going on at the same time.
Yeah.
So it was being spun as news when it may just be PR.
Oh, that's pretty crappy for the BBC.
I know. I thought that was
interesting. Even if he's found exactly what he says he's found, what does it all mean? well, according to Cott, and this is a quote, the results shatter many myths and alter our vision of Leonardo's masterpiece forever, unquote.
Oh,
and
come
then
on.
the short clip on the BBC website also features comments from art historian Andrew Graham Dixon, who also just happens to be the director of the full-length documentary, which isn't mentioned in the little clip. But he says the discovery, and again, quote, disturbs everything we thought we knew about the Mona Lisa, unquote. And he suspects the Louvre will be reluctant to change the name of the painting because that's what this discovery means. She's not the Mona Lisa. Except, of course, that's bullshit. The Louvre actually has declined to comment because they weren't part of the scientific team. Will Gompertz, who is a great name, first of all. Secondly, he's the BBC's art director, and he says,
I'm name for a dog. Come here, Gompertz! Gompertz! Come here!
Who's a good Gompertz?
I'm skeptical, he says. It's perfectly common for an artist to overpaint an image as it is for a client who's commissioned that artist to ask for changes. So it's not surprising that there are those underpaintings on the Mona Lisa.
Yeah.
The data that the technology generates is open to interpretation, which needs to be analyzed and corroborated by the academic and curatorial community, and not just an individual. I think the Louvre's decision not to make a comment is telling. This is the world's most famous painting, which, like a celebrity, always makes for a good story. But in this case, I think caution is required. And then Martin Kemp, who had previously collaborated with Cott, says something similar. Cott's images are ingenious in showing what Leonardo may have been thinking about, but the idea that there's that picture, as it were, hiding underneath the surface is untenable. I do not think there are these discrete stages which represent different portraits. I see it as more or less a continuous process of evolution. I'm absolutely convinced that the Mona Lisa is Lisa. Another documentary I saw about the Mona Lisa, actually about the supposed other Mona Lisa, they talk about, just how many layers of paint there are on the thing. That's part of this painstaking process of getting the result the painter wants, not just on the Mona Lisa, on other things as well. And part of that, the process to get it so you can't even see individual brush strokes.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. So it might not be quite as ground shaking as we're being told. And as for that whole, they'll have to change the name thing if it turns out that the portrait underneath is really Mona Lisa, not the portrait on top. Now, let's look at it this way. If you put up the next slide, this is Rembrandt's The Night Watch. Now, that's not its name. It was never its name. Its name is Militia Company of District 2 under the command of Captain Franz Banning Koch, or the Shooting Company of Franz Banning Koch and Willem van Rutenbert. But that's not what anyone calls it. Everyone calls it the Night Watch.
Yep.
When it was cleaned in the 1940s, it became clear that it is not, in fact, a night scene. So the name, the Night Watch, is inaccurate and based on a misunderstanding. Guess what the Wikipedia entry for this painting is called?
Does it have cock in it?
It does not. It's the Night Watch. Guess what the room where it hangs in the Rijksmuseum is called?
The Night Watch room?
The cock room?
Nachtwachtsaal, room of the Night Watch. So even if the art historical community decides the portrait under the portrait is an entirely different woman and that the hidden woman is really Lisa Gherardini, the Louvre and the rest of the world is not going to stop calling it the Mona Lisa or La Gioconda all of a sudden. What are they going to call it instead? Madame X? Another lady without an ermine?
The painting formerly known as the Mona Lisa?
Yeah.
Cock?
Yeah, there you go.
Maybe.
The Night Watch. So the technology is interesting and possibly useful. The findings are interesting, but it may be that Cott is pushing his interpretations too far. And again, the manner in which this has been unveiled is off-putting and is not how scholarship is supposed to work. Not in the sciences, not in the humanities, and not in the fine arts.
Yeah, it's kind of disappointing because it's sort of a neat technique.
Yeah.
To kind of see what did the earlier draft look like, and we've known that these paintings went through stages for years. They've known of none of this is really earth-shattering, and in the process of trying to make it seem earth-shattering, he sort of undermines his own credibility.
I mean, the fact of the matter is that ultimately...
And it's a shame, because it's a neat... He's doing a neat thing. It's like, let's peek under the layers and see what the previous draft of this painting looked like.
And ultimately, Leonardo decided not to go with whatever was painted underneath.
Right. He made an artistic decision that he wanted to change how it looked.
Yeah, and there are all sorts of controversies about the Mona Lisa, including the fact that he supposedly he was painting it in like 1505, but it wasn't finished. And it only becomes finished apparently much later. It doesn't seem he ever got payment for it from Del Giocondo, and he had it in his possession. So there are some weird things about it, and then there are the other so-called Mona Lisas. The thing is, his study of it was from when he had access to it was 2004. And he says he's been studying it for 10 years, but I think that must mean he's been studying his data for 10 years, because obviously he hasn't been shining lights at it through its bulletproof glass that whole time.
Right.
And he's made statements about it before, more sort of reasonable ones. Like he said, one of the things about it is, she doesn't have eyebrows and she doesn't have eyelashes. Vasari, when he talked about it, talked specifically about her eyebrows and her eyelashes. And he says they're there in the upper layers and suggests that they disappeared with an unwise cleaning at some point in the painting's history. He also said previously that she had a different smile on her face than the one she has now. But now we get back to not smiling at all. So that's strange. By the way, the same thing with the Lady in the Ermine. There was a book about that. The La Bella Principessa. There was a book about that. And sort of not cheap ones either. And there may be some scholarly articles as well, but he seems to go for main impact.
So basically, the 10 years that he sat on this, he was shopping around for a book deal?
Well, I don't know if he was sitting on it. Again, he presumably is going through data and doing more jiggery pokery.
Or shopping for a contract. I mean, how long does it take to say, hey, look, there's some shit underneath here?
I don't know. Because I don't know.
I mean, that was my major question, is that even if you can see the multiple layers of paint, how do you tell when those layers, I mean,
the stuff lower down, the stuff was on first.
Yes, thank you, Bob.
No problem.
Was it like,
I'm here to help.
Was it like done in a matter? I mean, he worked on it for how long? Was it years? And if he did, how many layers did he do? And which ones were intermediate? And did he like work a little here and then come back to it next week after Elliot's tried and work?
And was there a radical change? Yeah. Or gradual.
That's to me, my understanding of how painting works, especially if you're working on something over a period of time, is that there is no intermediate drafts. There's just a work in progress, and it's multiple layers.
Yeah, I think Leonardo rather famously said that the painting's never done, ever.
Which sounds to me like a perfectionist.
So he was like George Lucas.
Yeah.
Oh Christ! But had talent.
He was fairly good at not finishing things.
That's true.
He and Michelangelo both really good at not finishing stuff. And as I said, it seems that the Mona Lisa, that he didn't finish it. It never got to the person who commissioned it. And there are apparently very thorough tax records, and there's no record of any payment for it. It's then he seems to have taken it up later in life when he was in France.
So it's not surprising there are intermediate stages.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So we will never see this the same way again.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, remember when I was going to say, you remember when they cleaned the Sistine Chapel ceiling and all of a sudden it was all bright and stuff, and some people were horrified and it's like, no, we've ruined it. We'll never look at this in the same way. We've just gotten used to it now.
Yeah.
I think we'll live.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was very interesting. Thanks for that story. I think going just a little bit long. We're still good on time. Let's do all the wrap up. Were there any questions? A couple of questions that came in on the Q&A app. One was a comment. One was a question. Let's see here. Pierre Cloutier asked if what's the difference between his method and essentially I'm paraphrasing. The question is, I believe the Mona Lisa has been X-rayed. Would an X-ray show a painting underneath? And my question, I guess the real question is, how is the X-raying it different than the process that this guy did?
Well, actually, X-raying may not, and I just found this out, something I looked at last night. X-raying may not be the best way because a lot of paintings from that time period, Italian Renaissance paintings, and definitely Leonardo's, they use in one of the preparatory layers, they use lead white, which has lead in it. And so the X-rays don't go through that.
Radiation's going to go through it, yeah.
Yeah, so it's limited what you can see through X-rays, and I don't know exactly. I don't know exactly how it works. I'm sure in the full documentary there's more on it, but he says it shows more than infrared or other techniques that finer, that you can look at the levels more finely.
Okay. So there are going to be links to this stuff. You guys can go and read in the show notes. Right. No other questions? There were a couple of interesting jokes on Twitter. None of us, and to the dismay of Blake, who's hanging out on Twitter again, nobody made a Monsanto Claus joke. Did anybody have a Monsanto Claus joke? Because that's just good enough. Just to say Monsanto Claus is funny enough for me. Thanks, Blake, for that. Okay, so did anybody get the trivia question?
I didn't even see any guesses.
I didn't see any guesses either, so
I guess I went a little too deep.
No, I thought it was pretty straightforward.
Rose Mackenberg was a investigator of psychic mediums in the early 20th century, and knowing that, you might guess that the famous skeptic she was associated with was none other than Houdini. She used to do investigations for Houdini, and then after Houdini died, she continued to do investigations.
With Houdini.
With his ghost. Yeah, no, she exposed a lot of fraudulent mediums and did a lot of interesting stuff, and there have been a couple of interesting articles in Skeptical Inquirer and Skeptic magazine about her.
Interesting, and I'm disappointed that nobody even guessed.
Yeah, I didn't see. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I didn't see any guesses.
Nope. Nobody guessed about the videos behind me. This week I just grabbed a couple of shows that I've been thoroughly into lately. The one on my right side, the far one over here, is the trailer for. It's actually a show that it aired in 2011 and 2012. It's been canceled, but which all good shows are. But it's on Netflix right now. It's called Booth at the End, and it's very intriguing, very story based. Essentially, all the action takes place in interviews. Go watch it. It's awesome. And you will not want to stop watching it after you start a season because it just keeps going and it sucks you in. The other one is a relatively new show. It's a guy who started out on YouTube and got enough attention that he sold his show to True TV, which is one of those like almost exclusively online content type networks. It's Adam Conover is the guy's name, and the show is called Adam Ruins Everything. And the interesting thing about his show, each episode has kind of a theme, and the concept is he is this annoying guy that tells everyone things are wrong. And he talks about anything from automobiles in the United States to the political system in the United States to bathroom products, and it's all debunking essentially. But he references studies and published data, and he annotates it all on his website. So most of the claims that I've noticed, they're not everything, but most of the claims he makes in the show are all annotated on the website, so you can go actually verify his sources, which I think is really cool. Plus, it's entertaining and funny, and he's kind of a goof, so it works. It's
kind of a neat way to make skeptical stuff entertaining, make it funny.
It's mainstream skepticism done very, very well, and I find it entertaining, and my kids like it too. So it's accessible to the young folk. At least my young folk, but my young folk are nerds like me, so in a good way. So there you go. Nobody got that, but hey, we got to talk about it. Now, book time. Everybody got books?
Books.
Yes.
Did I not warn you? Because I don't see any announcements. Do we have any announcements?
I have something coming up at Conspiracy Guy soon.
Okay.
So.
You're gonna. I guess you'll let people know on the online social media stuff when that happens, I guess. Or mention it in the show in the future. You got a book? You want to go first?
Okay. Human dissections were held in public halls or bars, or for private parties in a person's living room. This one tavern, located near the hanging ground, advertised its anatomical events in the newspaper. At festival time, colleges and museums sponsored their own human dissections with free admission for all. Crowds could be raucous, and if things got dull, a live animal could be slaughtered. Anatomical demonstrations in Berlin were the hottest ticket in town, and the Paris Academy sold out. Berlin charged more for the rare female body, and still more if the woman was pregnant.
Wow.
How much if she was still alive?
No.
That's
They're a bad person.
A different part of town. Okay. Go ahead, Eve, if you've got a book.
It is said that people who could take on the character of animals or went berserk became so strong in this state that no one was a match for them, but also that just after it wore off, they were left weaker than usual. Kveldolf was the same, so that when his frenzy wore off, he felt exhausted by the effort he had made and was rendered completely powerless and had to lie down and rest.
Tim?
Bridges and routers are intelligent devices that extend network systems by storing and forwarding packets on a path from the packet source node to its destination node. A bridge operates at the data link layer, level 2 of the ISO OSI reference model. It examines the data link level destination addressing information of packets received by it on the link segments to which the bridge is connected. It then retransmits each packet on the appropriate segment toward the packet's destination node. In effect, bridges extend the effective length and maximum number of nodes limit of a single data link or local area network. Bridges are widely used in Ethernet-based systems such as DECnet. And source routing bridges are widely used in token ring-based systems.
Wow, that's an old book.
Yes, it is an old book.
My quote is actually really short. Here we go. Laugh whenever you can. Keeps you from killing yourself when things are bad. That and vodka. What's your book, Bob?
Strange Medicine, A Shocking History of Real Medical Practices Through the Ages by Nathan Belovsky. It was underneath the tag. It's meh. It's meh.
Yeah? Okay.
It's a little snarky. It's a little, I mean,
yeah.
You got to be funny to pull that off.
Oh.
I'm sure it does.
Oh. So it's not funny.
Yeah.
Eve?
Mine was Ale Saga Skatle Grimson, translated by Bernard Scudder, probably written by Snorri Sturluson, from Sagas of Icelanders. And by the way, the berserker, the shape-shifting berserker they're talking about, named Kveldulf, his name means evening wolf, which is basically like saying, "Hi, my name's Werewolf."
Yeah. Bear Castle. Tim, what's your book?
It's called Inside Apple Talk, 2nd edition. It's the reference tome to Apple's old network system that you used to use the Macintoshes together.
Wow.
It is obsolete on every possible level.
What's the date on that? Do you have a date?
1907. 1990. 1990. Fourth printing, 1993.
Oh, wow.
So not 1907. Yeah, back in 1907, they used Apple Talk on what?
22 years old.
Morse code transmission, Apple Talk.
Bridges still exist. We just call them switches now.
Yeah, we do call switches now.
That's all the switches.
My book is not going to be surprising at all because I've been working my way through this entire series of books. It's another Jim Butcher Dresden book called Changes. It's the 12th book in the series. I am almost caught up with him writing them. So I've got 2 more books and that's caught up. It's very witty stuff and kind of interesting. It's, I don't know, easy, fun reads, fantasy stuff. So, okay then. Everybody did their books. We got the announcements. We got the trivia question, all that stuff. We did the show. Thanks, Blake, for saying it's a fun show. Nice to see you, Blake. I think it's now time for us to dance. Yes?
Okay.
Yes? Okay.
Sure.
So, there's the music. Thanks for watching, everybody. Virtual Skeptics is an independent production of whatstheharm.net, Skeptical Humanity, myself, I See This Everywhere, and Doubtful News. Our logo was designed by Sarah Mayhew at sarahmayhew.com, and our theme music is by Musicant and used with permission. Can they see us?
I don't know. Because we're like trading off voting.
Thanks for watching, guys.